So I was doing some planning some prep, and I was like, I wonder when the combine is. And I Googled it, and I was like, that's next week. The combine is next week. And it's in
our hometown.
And we're not going this year because every year we go, and we're like, why are we doing this? And we can't see what's going on. And so we come home and watch on TV. Mm-hmm. Which is what we'll be doing this year.
Yep.
Nevertheless, rookie season.
Well, live stream.
It's rookie season, so what do we got to do today, Nathan?
Do a rookie mock draft.
101 Caleb Williams.
With not landing spots.
No, not landing spots. Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
Still taking Caleb Williams. Going to be the 101 in the NFL draft. Caleb Williams, obviously from USC, and was the 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. Took over for Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma when he was a true freshman. He followed Lincoln Riley. QBR of 86.5, 92nd percentile among this year's QB draft class, and a YPA of 9.1, which is in the 81st percentile. Again, grades out really well when you're looking at PFF grades. 86% in short passing, 88 in medium passing, 96th percentile in long passing, and 87% in also the rushing/scrambling part of that grade. So again, projected 101 in the NFL draft, projected 101 in the rookie drafts. Caleb Williams in a Superflex league. Surefire pick there. I love him. Got it.
You know, I really think that's just such a wrong pick. I think you need to explain more in depth why you chose it. Just kidding. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be my 102 here. I'm not going to get cute here like I think a lot of people are trying to with the Jaden Daniels stuff at the moment. I'm sticking with the best wide receiver. I'm sticking with the best asset at another position in this class right now in Marvin Harrison Jr. Why do I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is good? Why does everyone think Marvin Harrison Jr. is good? Why does everyone just not explain why he's good? Because everyone knows why. But guess what? I'm going to give you a little bonus content, and maybe I'll even, give you a little sneak peek at what our rookie draft guide actually looks like with the Marvin Harrison Jr. guide specifically.
Here it is.
I mean, here's our 5-pillar style comp. This is something that Ryan Bredd, our lead analyst, has really... he's narrowed down to a science with these wide receiver prospects, and there's a reason Marvin Harrison Jr. is at the top of this list. It's not, we don't just do this because everyone else does. Like, there is statistical support for why Marvin Harrison Jr. is the number one wide receiver in this class. And when you look at his measurables, we're anticipating that he gets around a 4.45. Hopefully better. That'd be really, really nice. For a guy who's 6'3" and over 200 pounds, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely insane. He's got a production, or he's got a 2023 Dominator rating of 38.7%. When you're like giving a letter grade to that compared to what's average around college football, that's an A+. Okay, that is the best of the best. If you don't know what college Dominator rating is, that's good. That percentage is good.
He won Ohio State games this year. Like, plain and simple,
legitimately.
They do not win a couple of their games.
He's the only reason they had a chance against Michigan.
It is. Yes, that's correct.
His ADOT was 14.3 yards. 14.3. As a 6'3", 205-pound wide receiver, that runs a 4.45, 14.3, average depth of target. That's a big possession wide receiver that could play an alpha wide receiver in the NFL.
He's built like an alpha wide receiver.
Yards after the catch, 6.4. That's an A. That's an A. That's real good. And he, as an outside wide receiver, I think he's going to be dominant in the NFL.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think, okay, he doesn't grade out super well as a yak guy, but again, his metrics still aren't that bad. Yeah. I'm taking Jaden Daniels here at the 103. Jaden Daniels, obviously the Heisman Trophy winner this year, after Caleb Williams won it last year. He's 6'3", 185 pounds. He's projected to go right now in the top 10, maybe the top 5 of the NFL draft. And when and if he does, that's why he's here. Because he could be as high as 2. But I'm going to take him over Drake May, even though I personally like Drake May more as a prospect. I do think that he's going to come in and be the dynasty quarterback 12 to 15 right off the bat if he does get that draft capital. Yeah. From an analytics standpoint, there are some shortcomings to his game. But you're looking at the scramble game, 97th percentile. Long passing, he is in the 100th percentile. He is fantastic at throwing the deep ball, and it's shown up in his metrics according to PFF. Again, right now, projected anywhere in rookie drafts from the 102 to the 108, it's very volatile. It's going to be very dependent on where he gets drafted. But he, with the rushing upside he possesses, is absolutely somebody that you have to keep an eye on from a dynasty fantasy football perspective, similar to Anthony Richardson. Not the most polished prospect, but the athletic upside and the upside for scoring fantasy points cannot be ignored. And he's actually he is a more polished prospect than Anthony Richardson by far. He won the Heisman. Anthony Richardson was not good in college. I mean, you're talking about if we're going to project Anthony Richardson at the 102, right, there's no reason Jaden Daniels shouldn't make it up there either. If he gets the draft capital, That's the asterisk. And going through all these prospects, we are literally sitting here reading off of our 2024 Dynasty Domain Rookie Draft Guide. Version 2 coming out in 2 weeks after the Combine. We'll update our rankings, all of our draft capital projections, and all of that. But you get that and a team blueprint for your Dynasty team, which is a long-term, comprehensive plan for your Dynasty team that includes one-on-one strategy sessions with us. You get both of those things when you use code DOMAIN. Have to use code DOMAIN when you sign up at flockfantasy.com/domain. Again, choose another Flocker tier when you use code DOMAIN. You get both the rookie draft guide that we're using right now, and you also get a team blueprint, and you get in our listener leagues, which we're drawing for March 1st. All of that at flockfantasy.com/domain. Like I said, use code domain. But next pick here.
Drake May, please, and thank you, and yes. A lot of people don't love Drake May coming out of North Carolina. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's not that they don't like him. They're just lower on him than us specifically, and they're higher on Jaden Daniels. And Drake May might be one of those guys that we predict could potentially fall to the 105, 106, if you're lucky, the 107 potentially, even if he gets top 5 draft capital, guys. If you don't believe it, all you have to do is look literally less than a year ago to last year's draft when CJ Stroud went 2nd overall, and we said you have to respect the draft capital, you have to take him, I don't care what the S2 score says, and he fell to the 106 anyways, pretty consistently. Drake May is a very, very good college prospect as a quarterback. And if he were not in the class with Caleb Williams, in most other classes, he would be the quarterback 1 off the board. We talk about Jaden Daniels' rushing upside. You remember that sacks are included as like negative yardage in the rushing metrics in college football. Mm-hmm. Drake May had 700 rushing yards this last season. And I think he had more a year ago, if I'm not mistaken. This dude can absolutely get you some rushing points. Not like some here and there like a Trevor Lawrence or a Justin Herbert, like legitimate rushing ability, like Josh Allen can. Like not as far as Jalen Hurts, potentially. But they can actually utilize him in the run game. They can like scheme up, I believe, plays in the NFL for him to run the ball. That is going to raise his overall fantasy ceiling.
Reminds me a little bit like from a rushing upside perspective, not a ton, but a little bit like Justin Herbert, where he can supplement his passing scoring with rushing upside.
But I think he's capable of doing more, is what I'm saying.
Really?
Because Herbert, I mean, in college, Herbert was never nearly as much as Drake May was in college rushing upside-wise.
We'll see. I mean, I would love that. And I think regardless of if that's true or not, he's going to go
And that's
this
not
high.
saying Drake May can't be a pocket passer. Like, you can still have significant receiving upside and still be a pocket passer. Yeah. Like, that's possible.
All right, I'll take Malik Neighbors at the 105. Malik Neighbors probably going to be the best wide receiver prospect in most of the past 3 or 4 classes. Mm-hmm. But he's in a class with Marvin Harrison Jr., so he is not going to be that this year. However, he is just, I mean, from a talent perspective, from an upside perspective, I think he has as much upside as anybody in this class, for sure, including Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to make an immediate impact on an NFL roster. That's what we predict. In an age where rookie wide receivers are coming out and having immediate impact, we think even if he gets a not great landing spot, he could have an immediate impact. Size-speed combination, pretty good. 6'1", 185 pounds-ish, is projected to run a 4.4. So, again, at that rate, we are going to expect him to be an impact guy in the NFL right away. He's more of a slot. He lined up a lot in the slot, playing alongside Brian Thomas Jr. He was able to move around a little bit at LSU in that offense, but A+ grade for his dominator rating, according to PFF. And 3.64 yards per route run. We talked about that metric a lot. Malik Neighbors very, very good in that metric as well. So everything points to him being picked around the 104, 105 in rookie drafts this year in Dynasty. And everything also from a, NFL perspective points to him going in the top 10 to 15.
Yeah, he could potentially be one of the better values in this year's class, maybe the best, just because of like where he could potentially go in the draft and where he's going to be drafted in your rookie drafts due to all of these, top heavy assets going ahead of him in at the quarterback position and with Marvin Harrison Jr. Another guy that we think is going to be one of the better values is Brock Bowers. I'm going to take him over Odunze here just because I'm doing it for the frick of it. Why not? It's a 50-50. It's a tier of its own. The 106 and the 107, in our opinion, will be Bowers, Odunze, unless you do something cute here. But for me, Bowers, as an NFL prospect, as a tight end prospect, is very, very good. He has been since he was a freshman in college. We have seen some tight ends like Kyle Pitts struggle to make that jump to the NFL as elite prospects. Some of it's due to situation. Some of it is due to lack of development. I can tell you for a fact, Brock Bowers does not lack development. And I don't think Brock Bowers will lack a very, very friendly situation. I don't think... if I were a betting man, I don't think he's a lock to go top 10. And honestly, I think that could be better for his value if he doesn't, because he'd end up going to a better situation, in my personal opinion. I mean, you've been seeing a lot of people mocking him to the Colts at 15. I don't know if he'll fall that far.
That'd be too good to be true.
I mean, even if a team that's later in the draft trades up for him, like there's a lot of need for a tight end like Brock Bowers that can play that possession almost wide receiver type like a Sam Laporta. I love him here at the 106.
All right, so then that leaves, again, you're at the 107 and you're getting Rome Odunze, a guy who, again, is probably going to go to a team and be their wide receiver one. Playing alongside Jalen McMillan and Jalen Polk this year, he was playing with other NFL wide receivers. Okay, you're talking about two guys that are going to get drafted. He was playing alongside them, and so as a result, his dominator rating grades out at about a B-, 30%. But again, it's because he's playing alongside other NFL receivers. When you're looking at how he plays, he's a big possession guy, average depth of target of 15.5, lined up 81% of the time out wide. And this is what we saw a lot. Michael Penix throwing it over the top of defenses up to Rome Odunze, and Rome Odunze having incredible hands and incredible maturity as a receiver when the ball is in the air. Loved to see it. He is projected right now to go in the top 15 of the NFL draft. He's projected to come in Dynasty and be a top 18 Dynasty wide receiver right off the bat. We project him to go anywhere from the 105 to the 107 this year. In the draft, we take him here at the 107. And again, this is a guy that played with NFL talent and still produced with NFL guys around him. So he is going to do that in the NFL. He's going to be a very good NFL wide receiver for a team. I'm really excited about him, and getting him at the 107, again, this is why I'm buying into the 107 right now. Yeah. Because if it's not him, it's Bowers, who I think is close to a lock to get top 10, in my opinion. I think he is close to a lock. Either way, you're walking away here and you're like, wow, I just got one of those guys at the 107. That's nuts.
It's a win-win.
It's insane.
It's a win-win.
So
there's been 3 wide receivers off the board at this point, and I think at this point you're kind of looking at maybe taking the best at the final position that hasn't gone yet, and I am going to go with Jonathan Brooks. Right. This is something that you consistently see every single year in weaker classes. The weakest, I would say, position in that respective class usually goes in the best of that weak position usually goes in this range, like the 108 to the 111-ish. I'm going to take Brooks here because I do believe in him getting respectable day 2 draft capital. And honestly, as a prospect, if Travion Henderson had declared for this, if Travion Henderson had declared for the 2024 draft class, and we were saying Jonathan Brooks or Travion Henderson, and everyone was saying Henderson, I was prepared to make a case for Jonathan Brooks potentially even being over Travion Henderson in my personal rankings. I like him a lot. My voice keeps cracking.
I like him a lot, Jonathan Brooks.
It really sucks. Everyone knows that he tore his ACL. Look, we'd be having Jonathan Brooks in a higher draft capital conversation if he hadn't torn his ACL. I think he's very deserving of going at the 108 here as the best running back prospect in this class. Everyone in the Dynasty community is thirsty for a real good running back prospect, and Brooks is going to
usually the top one slides up like this. Yeah. I think it's a great call, and we've had it for 2 mocks in a row now, so we're kind of calling our shot. Give me Bo Nix here. Bo Nix is a guy projected in the mid-first to second round of NFL drafts. You're looking at when he played at Auburn for 3 seasons. In 3 seasons at Auburn, he had 7,000 yards-ish, 39 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions. In 2 seasons at Oregon, over 8,000 yards, 74 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. His last 2 seasons in college, he really turned it up, and it has helped his draft stock, and he is potentially now going to, again, be a first-round NFL selection. Now, we do know the metrics and grading out guys that get selected in the first round for quarterbacks, the hit rate's about 50%. It really is about 50%. And again, this is a guy, if he does go in the first round, it's no guarantee that he's going to hit. When you're talking about the 109, out of the top tier of guys, when you've got guys like the receivers, the first running backs, and then these quarterbacks, it is absolutely plausible that either Bo Nix or Michael Penix Jr. ends up this high, if not higher, in rookie drafts. Their ceiling is this high or higher. Not much higher, but when you're talking about QBR for Bo Nix in his senior year, 91. That's the 99th percentile. He was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in college football last year. Definitely a game manager guy. But we don't use game manager as an insult. We don't say Brock Purdy's a game manager like he's just a game manager. We say he fits an NFL offense, and he runs an NFL offense, and he scores fantasy points in an NFL offense. And Bo Nix is capable of doing just that as well. Grades out really high in his passing metrics in PFF as well. 6'3", 220 pounds. We expect Bo Nix to get decent draft capital in a QB needy and a QB centered NFL. There will be a spot for Bo Nix, and in Superflex leagues for your dynasty team, Bo Nix will end up going probably this high in your dynasty rookie drafts. There's a shot called for you.
Yeah, and there's about 4 guys that I could honestly take here. And I'll just go with the easy route and take Brian Thomas Jr., wide receiver 2 out of LSU. This dude is 6'4" and about 200 pounds. His ability to produce at an elite level in college alongside Malik Neighbors is really a testament to his ability as a prospect going into the NFL. And this is something that I think could be similar to the Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave situation a couple years ago, where you saw Garrett Wilson skyrocket up boards because he was the first one off the board in the 2022 NFL draft. And Chris Olave, you were getting at a severe discount, one, because he was a fourth-year declare going into 2022, but also just the fact that he played second fiddle to Garrett Wilson. Yep. And I think you're going to see the same thing with Brian Thomas. Yes, a lot of people are high on Brian Thomas. If he goes into that late first round range and gets a really, really good landing spot, maybe we're having a different conversation. But from a talent perspective, I see a lot of similarities here. And I don't think he was just playing a complementary piece of Malik Neighbors. I think he could be a very good wide receiver 1, potentially in his own right in the NFL for a given team.
I'm taking Xavier Worthy here. Xavier Worthy, one of the most consistent producing wide receivers since he was a freshman at Texas.
Love the pick.
Out wide, he's more of a hybrid wide receiver, from an alignment perspective. He is a deep threat / possession wide receiver. I'd call him more of a deep threat given his size. But in the past, we've made the mistake of shorting guys because of their size. And less frequently, but equally as stupid, if not more stupid, we've made the mistake of shorting guys because of their drop rate.
And because we're elevating an inferior wide receiver in the same offense in Adonai Mitchell because of his physical tools, basically because Adonai Mitchell isn't small.
We'll see next week, but he projects to be like a 4.35 guy. That's fast. Yeah. 6'1", 160. I would expect him to weigh in a little bit more than 160 at the combine. Yeah. But when you're talking about guys who have come in and weighed under that threshold that we look for, about 185 pounds, Marquise Brown comes to mind, a guy that weighed in very light at the combine, still came in. Plays a lot like Marquise Brown, honestly. Plays a lot like Marquise Brown. And again, a guy didn't have a super high dominator rating, B- there. But it'd be interesting to see what his RAS is when it comes in after the combine testing is complete. He's projected 110 to 205 in this year's draft. And we like Xavier Worthy. We think, and we've seen as he's been at Texas, he can be less of just a deep threat and more of a intermediate threat. And that's a good thing when you're going into the NFL. And as we've seen him trend more that way, we've become more comfortable. Drops don't matter. Don't even ask. I like Xavier Worthy here, though.
Yeah. Give me Michael Penix quite easily. I think get used to the two of us continually screaming Michael Penix all offseason up until the NFL draft. And if he doesn't get the draft capital we expect, then I guess we'll look like idiots and we'll say we're sorry. But Michael Penix, please do not short him just because he's incredibly unpopular right now, okay? There are a lot of aspects to his game that are much better than Bo Nix. In fact, his ceiling in the NFL, in my opinion, is much higher than Bo Nix.
Yeah, I think you have to say that.
His deep ball is objectively the best in college football. The best. His arm is unreal. I understand that it looks weird when he throws the ball because he's left-handed. Get used to it. There's not many left-handed quarterbacks out there. Maybe we got a little warmed up with Tua, but get used to Michael Penix. Get used to his name. When he gets good draft capital like I expect him to, late first, maybe at worst early second, I think you're looking at a very, very good value in a super flex league with this guy on your roster.
Yeah, let's knock out the second round here real quick. I'll take Troy Franklin at the 201, a guy who's projected late first or early second round, a guy who is an out wide receiver at Oregon, played alongside Bo Nix, and was hyper productive. Again, he's an intriguing prospect because of his play style, and he's slim. But again, we're not going to discount him because he's slim. He was very, very productive at Oregon. He led the team in receiving each of the last 2 seasons, and he's projected right in this range. Dominator rating about a B-. But projected a 4.4. So it'll be interesting to see how he weighs in at the combine. Very interested to see that. But he definitely is in this range, and I'm really intrigued to see what he does in the NFL.
Yeah. Give me Ladd McConkey here out of Georgia. Everyone knows at this point it was big news what he was doing at the Senior Bowl. Just absolutely
go watch the
people.
yards per route run video.
Yeah, the yards per route run video we came out with, I think, last week. And it can be very predictive of potential NFL success. And Ladd McConkey could be one of those, possession wide receivers that gets a lot of targets in the short to intermediate game and is a very, very underrated route runner right now.
Give me Trey Benson here. Trey Benson, we project him to go in rookie drafts to second round, probably. I will just comfortably say second round because it could be anywhere here, but I'm taking him here at the 203. Trey Benson, he does meet our threshold of over 8.25 yards per reception in college, so I like that a lot. Breakaway run rate of 53.9%. That's very good. That's grades out as an A- according to PFF. For BMI guys, BMI of 28.4. He's 6'1", 223. He has the size. Interesting to see what his 40 time is, but recovered from a bad injury, coming into the NFL now. Really interested to see where these backs go, but Trey Benson could easily be up here. So
yeah, and I'll take Braylon Allen. I think they're in the same tier at this point. Yes, Trey Benson has the upper hand from a receiving perspective. Braylon Allen, as just a specimen of a running back physically, he's 6'2", 245 pounds. What the actual frick? How are you going to tackle that? I know some people are scared of that build because it's not very common that you see success at that size in the NFL with those running backs. But guess what? It's not very often that you see running backs at that size in general. There's a reason there's not many of them because there's legitimately not many of them that exist. So Braylon Allen, we're a big fan of him out of Wisconsin. He's a very stereotypical Wisconsin running back, and historically, you've seen a lot of those hit at the NFL level. We have some concerns with his receiving upside, so he will have to get day 2 draft capital for us to be excited about him, but I'm very optimistic that he can have success in a Green Bay Packers situation.
Keon Coleman at the 205. Keon Coleman, a guy that a lot of people project higher than this. He's projected to go in the late first or early second in the NFL draft. I probably project him more as a day 2 guy myself, but I'm not a scout. Obviously 6'4", 201. He's a tall guy, big guy, unpolished. And in college, the production didn't really shine through. This is a lot of the reason we have issue with him. 2023 dominator rating was a 23%. That's a D+ according to PFF. Yards per route run, 2.07. That's also a D. Not super great from an analytics standpoint, but analytics aren't everything. You could see him come in and have an impact on an NFL team purely based on the fact that he's an unpolished, extremely, extremely athletic prospect. So Keon Coleman could easily go higher than this. We're comfortable taking him mid-second right now.
Don't say I never took J.J. McCarthy in any of our mock drafts. This will be the first and potentially the last time that I do it, but I will take him here at the 206 if he gets the draft capital that I don't expect him to get, but I'm just assuming at this point, even in the second round, in the middle of the second round, very good value. I'll take him here.
All right, well, I'll take Adonai Mitchell here. I don't, again, we think Adonai Mitchell is a little bit overhyped. We don't think he's a sure thing at all. We think he's risky, but we think he has a really high upside. 2023 dominator rating for Adonai Mitchell was 19%. That's an F according to PFF. Again, the production profile is not really there, but it's a guy 6'4", 190 pounds that's going to run a 4.4. Sign me up for that part of it. Again, it's going to depend on where he goes. If he goes late first, that's going to obviously give him a draft bump. If he goes mid-second, that's less of a draft bump. If he goes in third, it's let's let the NFL decide for us here, but Adonai Mitchell definitely on our radar here.
Yep. Give me Jatavian Sanders, the unquestioned, in my opinion, tight end 2 in this class. And it's not a very deep class, but JT Sanders in a lot of non-Brock Bowers classes would be up there, probably competing for the number 1 spot. So with him, he's kind of your stereotypical tight end prospect going into the NFL that may not produce on day 1, but if you stash him here at the end of the second round and he gets good draft capital like we expect him to, I mean, you're looking at a guy that could potentially be a real force at the tight end position in your fantasy leagues in the near future.
Yeah. Give me Marshawn Lloyd at the 209. The first time he's popped up in one of our drafts. But let's look at his 5-pillar style comp, guys. Measurables. 4.45 40. 31 BMI. He's got the size. 5'9", 215. Breakaway run rate. PFF. A. Yards after contact per attempt. B-. Dominator is a C. That's the knock on his profile. Yards per carry. A-. Yards per touch. A+. Yards per reception. 17.8. Leads the class. Okay, so this is a guy that has potential to jump into the late second here, but honestly, we think he could be one of the more talented backs in this class. We're really high on Marshawn Lloyd, and so we're going to start keeping him on your radar as well. Go ahead, Nathan.
Yeah. Let me go with, all right, I'll take Audric Esime here. There is nothing against Audric Esime and why he's been continually falling. Like, we took him pretty high, I think, in our super early mock drafts and rankings, and there's just been risers and there's been noise. It's been like all quiet, just total silence with Audric Esime since really November, December, and we're just going to have to see what he does at the combine in a couple weeks. There is absolutely a chance that he makes some noise, that his measurables really come out to be very solid from a height and weight perspective, and if he runs a real good 40 time, we're going to be talking, because he breaks that threshold of over 9 yards per reception, I believe, in college. And if he gets day 2 draft capital, big fan of this guy.
I've not taken this guy, but I want to keep him on your radar. That's what I like to do with these second guys. I'm going to take Johnny Wilson here. Johnny Wilson is a guy that is 6'7", 235 pounds.
Yeah.
Projected 3rd to 5th right now, really. Like, not projected super high in the NFL draft, but we have never seen a wide receiver with this size before. Big possession wide receiver, obviously. Outside wide receiver, 90% of the time lined up out wide, obviously.
Again, tight end.
Yards per out run, though. We did this video. 3.36 yards per out run for Johnny Wilson.
Good for him.
That's a good, and it means a lot. Now, it also means that Johnny Wilson could be a tight end in the NFL. And to that I say, all right, okay, let's do it. I mean, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Keep Johnny Wilson on your radar. A unicorn of a prospect, but has some really high upside. So
yeah, and I'll close it out here with Jalen Polk. He's that other wide receiver out of Washington, the one of 3. It's Polk, it's McMillan, and it's Odunze. I feel like every mock draft we do, one of those of Polk and McMillan is left out. It's hard to, and it's going to come down to draft capital. I think a lot of people really like Jalen Polk. They like his size. They like the type of wide receiver that he played at Washington, a big possession wide receiver. He could do some things in the long game as well, obviously playing with Michael Penix, who can just push it downfield anytime, any day. Jalen Polk, he's going to be that early declare as opposed to McMillan, who was a 4-year starter. I personally like McMillan more, but I'll listen to the Dynasty community right now who likes Polk significantly more, and I will hope that he gets late 2nd, early 3rd draft capital.
There you have it. It's a mock draft. If you want access to the data we were reading off of in today's video, like literally we have it open, I will show you. There's the mock draft. There's the rookie draft guide. You want the rookie draft guide? You want a team blueprint? You want to be a part of the community? You want to get in our listener leagues? flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain when you sign up. You get 30% off, and you get all that. Again, if you use code domain, you get our stuff, including our rookie draft guide and a team blueprint for your dynasty team. Like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain. Make sure you use code domain when you sign up. Like and subscribe per usual. That helps us out a ton. Appreciate you guys. See you later.